What's happening, everyone? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the uConnect media screen inside of the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Very straightforward process, should only take about 10-15 minutes or so to go through every single option that you're going to need to know. We're going to talk about climate settings, setting up presets, how to set up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and a number of other things. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, think about sharing it with your social networks, but let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what this uConnect media screen is all about. All right, next up, this is going to be the uConnect media screen. So the 8.4-inch screen, that's going to be standard on the majority of the trim level for the vehicle. Now, a couple things to know: if you're in that base trim level instead, that's going to be a 7-inch media screen. Otherwise, it's going to be this beautiful 8.4-inch instead. So let's dive into it and figure out exactly what's going on. So along the very top, we've got our presets, and we've got a couple of different pages of presets there. We've got our AM, FM, Sirius XM, or selecting our different sources. So Bluetooth, aux cable, and then our few USB ports as well, and clicking that back down. We've got a hot button press in order to be able to get into our maps. We can browse, change songs or stations. We can tune to a station this way. We can use the tuning rocker, or we can just use the voice command prompt on the steering wheel instead, which I honestly do recommend that because it's a lot of flexibility when it comes down to it. And from there, very bottom, we've got our basics for our audio there as well, so our audio settings. We've got our balance fade, we've got our equalizer, so treble, mid-range, bass, speed adjusted volume, surround sound, and a few other things. So let's actually go down, and then we've got our autoplay setting whenever a USB device is plugged in. Jumping into our climate, so we've got some basics for our climate control down in the middle stack, in the center stack there. We've got some more advanced ones along the top. So we've got our max AC, air conditioning, circulation, etc. We've got dual zone climate inside of the vehicle, which we can control from the screen, or we can go up and down there as well. If you want to change it back to the driver default, just sync it up there. We've got our basics for our fan speed. We can adjust it there, or we can just adjust using the screen as well. Now we do have the hot button press for our controls, or we can press the bottom button there as well, leads us to the same place. We've got our heated or cooled front seats. We can toggle those ones on or off, as well as a heated steering wheel. Hot button press for our backup camera, and then we can jump into our general settings, which also lead down to that screen in the bottom there as well. Moving into our U apps, this essentially is going to be every possible feature laid out in a nutshell very simply. So we've got our driver heat, passenger heat, etc. Projection manager is where we're going to go in to play with whatever phones we've got connected through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And then we've also got our paired phones as well as different audio sources. So a lot of different flexibility there. We'll get to the projection management when we get into the phone setting there. So we're not there just yet. We've got our Wi-Fi hotspot. So the vehicle is equipped with an onboard modem, and we can use it for a hotspot for a number of different devices. You do need a data-only plan through your cell phone provider in order for that to work. We've got our SOS mode, our assistant, our ghost services, notification. Offroad Pages is a pretty neat one. Okay, so as this loads up, it'll take another second or so there. And boom, here we go. So as you can see along the very top, we've got our vehicle dynamics, so we can figure out exactly what's going on with our steering angle, transfer case, differential. We've got our suspension as well to figure out exactly what's happening, how high or low is the vehicle sitting. So literally we'll lower or raise the vehicle up, which I think is so freaking cool. So really useful if you're going to be going off-roading, rock climbing, things like that. We've got our pitch and roll to figure out exactly what's going on with the vehicle there. We've got our accessory gauges. Like, yeah, we could look at the instrument cluster screen, or we could just pull up this beautiful 8.4-inch screen instead. Auto mode there. We've also got what our GPS coordinates are and our current altitude. And we've got our select terrain as well, so we can figure out what's going on with the actual terrain inside of the vehicle. Moving back, last one, we've got our app manager. We've got our backup camera, heated steering wheel, and a few other things as well. Moving along the very bottom, we do have factory navigation inside of this vehicle. So we can very simply search for an address if we wanted to. Just start randomly typing in an address. And let's go ABC. I'm literally just searching for the road that we're on right now. We're just typing in an address. Kingston. Ooh, backup helps if I spell properly. There we go. And okay. There we go. 570 Kingston Road. We can route to very simply. We can save it as a preference as well if we want to. So we just go route to. And it lets us know exactly what's going on, our route time, alternatives, and things like that.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
Okay, here we go. We've got our menu to go back up again, so we can stop guidance if we want to. We can pause guidance, we can repeat, we can go to previously saved addresses. We can look at our navigation settings as well, so a lot of flexibility when it comes down to it. If we go stop guidance, come on now, stop guidance, wrong part of the button. Stop guidance along the top there. We're just going to press the yes button there, and that's going to cancel out the map that we currently were going for. We go into our navigation settings, into our map setup. We've got different map views, our map appearance, different displays, so our city, street, etc. auto zoom. So as we start to get into an upcoming turn, it's going to zoom in or out, yes or no. Point of interest icons, do we want those showing, yes or no? 3D models also, do we want park areas showing, railroads, and a number of other things. Moving back, we've got our speed limit. So do we want a speed limit announcement warning, yes or no? Honestly, I'd probably recommend against that, but we do also have the speed limit showing as well. Moving back, we've got our guidance. So the guidance one is actually interesting. So we're going to play the voice. Is it going to navigate for the volume? So with our navigation volume, how high or low do we want that? Turn by turn showing up in that instrument cluster as well, yes or no? So I love that fact that we've got that flexibility. It'll show up in that cluster screen so we don't need to glance over. Lane recommendation, yes or no? Signpost, route options. Do we want freeways and toll roads to be allowed? Yes or no? Ferries, toll roads, etc. So we've got a lot of flexibility. And one of the nice things is that if we had a current map that was going and we set that up, it would automatically reroute us based off of our route options and our preferences. We can figure out how close or what our progress is on the route itself, and then different services. Next up, moving into our phone, we can easily pair phones on the vehicle, and we can pair both Android and Apple devices, and it is a very simple process. So literally all we're going to do on our phone, we're just going to make sure that Bluetooth is turned on, and we're going to pair a phone. And we're literally just waiting for the Grand Cherokee to show up. Okay, we've got uConnect, so there we go, we're going to connect. And as you can see, we've got a PIN number. We just want to make sure they add up. So yes, pair, and yes, and we're going to wait a second there. Okay, allow contacts and favorites to sync. Yes, I'm going to allow that. Pairing successful, and it supports phone and audio. Yes. Now, one of the nice things is that we can also use Siri Assistant by pressing the voice button on the steering wheel if we have our iPhone connected, which is great. We've got favorites, recent contacts, we've got the keypad, messages, and a number of other things. So lots of flexibility when it comes down to it. We look at pairing, phone pops up in cluster, yes or no. We can enter a do not disturb mode, and then we can jump into our projection manager as well. Projection manager, we're currently paired up with this phone. So really, really great. We can jump into our settings in order to disconnect, or we can delete the phone if we wanted to. If we had multiple phones connected, we could make it a favorite. Now, Projection Manager is where we're going to go in order to be able to set up Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now, I just set up the iPhone, so let's continue on with the iPhone side of things. So first thing you're going to do is make sure that you've got your USB cable, and you're just going to plug into any of the available USB ports. Plug in, step one. Step number two, you're going to take the opposite end of the cable, and you got it. Just going to plug yourself in, and I'm going to wait a second there. Should take a second. It launched right in there. I love how quick this thing actually works. On the phone, it's asking me, do I want to allow CarPlay with uConnect while the phone is locked? Yes, we absolutely want to make sure we do that. But I am now connected. So yes, the vehicle does have factory navigation, but if you prefer to use Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze, we can use any of these map applications directly through this middle screen, which I love that fact that we've got the capability to do it. Now, we've got a lot of flexibility there. We've got my messages, podcasts, audiobooks as well. Now, one of the really nice things about the iPhone side of things is that if we jump into our general settings on the phone, so we go General, CarPlay, we go uConnect, and we can customize, we can literally customize the tray itself. So I want to show you something. Let's say if you have a tendency to listen to your podcast, you drag and drop it to the top, podcast moves to the top. You want your audiobooks up there as well? Boom! Audiobooks are there also. We can delete some things out because if you never listen to podcasts, it deletes it, brings it to the bottom. If you've removed too many things, played around with it too much, you just reset to our factory default instead. And 1, 2, 3, hopping inside, that brings us right back to our default layout screen as well. Okay, now when we go into our settings, so this is an interesting part because we're in our settings. When we jump back, it brings us back into CarPlay. So if you ever want to get out and be able to navigate through your settings, we're just going to press the uConnect button there, and that's going to temporarily disable CarPlay. Well, and let us play around with these different buttons. So we go into our settings there, and we've got a lot of different options there. But one thing that I actually want to show you is we go to phone Bluetooth for a second. We've got our projection manager, and we've got my phone that's connected there. So we can disconnect it, we can hop inside, we can disable it as well. So enable, disable, etc. So if we disable CarPlay in a second will be disabled. We can bring it back to life again. Now, one thing to note, if we want to fully disable CarPlay on the vehicle, all we're going to do, so we disconnect for a second, we can forget the device if we want to, and now you can see the device is fully disconnected on the Apple CarPlay side of things, but we jump in and the phone is still paired up. So we can connect to my phone as well, but what I want to do is let's disable projection for a second, because what that means is we can be fully connected to charge up without having to worry about Apple CarPlay coming up, because if you don't want to use CarPlay and you just want to rely on your phone instead, just for phone calls and rely on the factory navigation, we've got that flexibility. But we do have to make sure that we actually unplug in order to be able to use that projection manager first. Hopping back inside, we can re-enable it, and then we've got my phone there, so it will show up again. As you can see there, it has shown up. uConnect. Let's hop back into the phone again, and let's go to our projection manager, and we're going to disable CarPlay. We're going to disconnect. We're going to forget the device. And the device is now fully disconnected from the vehicle, and it really is that simple. Now, setting up an Android device is literally the exact same process. So super simple from that perspective. We're just going to go paired phones. And before we go add device, we're just going to make sure that Bluetooth is turned on our phone. Perfect, it's on. And what we're going to do is hit add device. And we're going to scan. Oh, connections. It's not my first day. There we go. Oh, we're not looking for Wi-Fi. Oh, it is my first day. We're looking for Bluetooth. All right, we're just going to wait a second for uConnect to show up there. And we're going to connect through. Perfect. Make sure the pins match up, and they do, so yes. All right, make this my favorite phone, yes or no. But before we do, allow access to messages, yes. Contacts, yes. So we are now connected there. And make this my favorite phone, yes or no. So if you've got multiple phones connected, you can select whatever one you want as your favorite. If you don't select it as your favorite, you can always go jump back in order to be able to set that up as well. And from there, we can also move, and we can delete the phone if we wanted to. And my iPhone is now fully disconnected from the vehicle, which means that this is now my new favorite device. We jump back into the phone for a second, and as you can see, we've got my favorites, recent contacts, keypad messages, and a number of other things. Jumping back into pairing, projection manager, we can now set up Android Auto as well. So Android Auto, literally the exact same process. We take our USB cable, plug it into the available USB port there, and opposite end, we're just going to plug ourselves in, boom, and wait a quick second. All right, Android Auto lets you use apps on your screen, so we need to unlock to continue, so let's unlock the phone, unlocked. Android Auto would like to turn on Bluetooth, yes, and watch this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are now fully connected. Like, I absolutely love how easy it is to set these things up, but we've got settings there, we've got routes if we were to jump back in, and we've also got our notification manager and our Google Assistant there. So our voice assistants, we've got a lot of flexibility there. We've got our phone, we've got messages, and a number of other things. We can also customize the tray. And that's one of the nice things, because very similar, we do have the flexibility of jumping into the phone and searching for Android Auto, and then we can jump in order to change some settings around. So we can see our currently connected car, we can customize the launcher. So we can literally just drag and drop the exact same way we did on the iPhone side of things in order to be able to adjust. Now, one thing to note, when we drag and drop, we actually need to restart Android Auto in order for whatever changes we've made here to come into effect. So it's not going to be like Apple CarPlay where it dynamically does it for you. We need to restart in order for it to work. We've got our Google detection, assistant, we can disable weather, and a number of other things. So we do have a little bit of flexibility when it comes down to it. And then very similar to the Apple side of things, we hit the uConnect button there in order to bring us back to our default again. We can move up to the very top there to go into Bluetooth, jump into our projection manager. We can disable it if we want to. We can disconnect the Android device, or we can literally just pop this thing off in order to be able to forget the device. We can turn off our projection manager from there if we wanted to. Jumping into our paired devices, so I am now connected over Bluetooth, not connected through Android Auto. I plug myself in, and because we've disabled projection manager, it is now fully disconnected there. So it's really that simple. We hop back in if we wanted to, and we can delete my phone, delete the Galaxy, and as you can see, the phone is now disconnected. We jump back into phone, and we've got no connected phones, and it really is that simple. All right, continuing through, so we've got our phone covered off there. Jumping into our settings, this is where we get into a lot of advanced options. So we can change between English, Spanish, French. Display units, we've got a number of different options. So auto mode means that the vehicle is going to flip us between daytime or nighttime mode, so adjust the brightness automatically. We've got a few different themes. The touchscreen beep that we get, we can cancel that one out if it drives us nuts. Navigate turn-by-turn directions, etc. Our units, are they going to be US metric or a custom unit? Our voice. So when we've got a few different options there. So our length, either brief or detailed, and the command list, always show, never show, etc. So you've got some flexibility. The command list, when we press the button on the steering wheel, this is the list itself.
Cancel.
Do you want that to show up, yes or no? And then the length, do we want it to be brief so we won't get as many notifications as we change stations, make phone calls, things like that? It's going to be a matter of personal preference. Jumping back out, we've got our clock, so we can set it with our GPS. We can increase or decrease a minute. We've got our different time format there as well. So if you prefer that military time, so that 24-hour mode, you've got that flexibility. Moving down a little bit more, we've got our camera. So our camera, we've got our park view backup delay. So as we go to shift into reverse, it's going to delay the camera from showing up. And then our guidelines as well. So as we actually shift into reverse there, so our guidelines are these little guys there. So whether or not that one shows up is going to be a matter of personal preference. As we start to move up again, we've got our driver assistance settings, and this is where we got a ton of different options. So our emergency braking. If the vehicle actively senses a collision, it's going to automatically brake for us. Now, that's a feature that's available in some trim levels of the vehicle. It can give you a warning with the braking, only the warning, or you can turn it off completely. So it's a matter of preference there. Our lane sensing. Do we want that one to come on? Yes or no? And then how early or how intense is it going to be? So we've got some flexibility there. With our park assist, so that reverse sensing system, do we want that to come off, so the sound to display, or do we just want the sound, or do we want it to just turn off completely? Front sensing volume, same idea. So the rear brake assist, what that's going to do is if we're going into reverse, vehicle senses a collision, it's automatically going to brake for us. We've got power steering default, so we've got a few different options there. So our normal, sport, or comfort mode. We've got our paddle shifter, so we can enable or disable it. Our blind spot assist, so a blind spot alert lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And then we've also got our hill start assist. Let's see, we've got our mirrors and wipers as well. So tilt side mirrors when we're in reverse, that's a pretty neat one, because what that's going to do is it's going to tilt the mirrors down for us as we go into reverse. Auto folding side view mirrors, yeah, that's a pretty cool feature. You go to lock it and then it's going to fold the side mirrors in for us. Rain sensing wipers, make sure you turn this one off if you ever go into a car wash, but otherwise what's going to happen is when it senses that there's rain hitting the windshield, it's automatically going to start those wipers. And then our headlights with our wipers there as well. We've got our lights, our headlight delay, we've got our auto dim high beams as well. So what's going to happen is it'll flip the high beams on automatically. As it senses an oncoming vehicle, it'll start to dim them out for us completely in order to make sure we're not blinding an oncoming driver. And we've got our door and lock as well. So our auto door locks, unlock, yes. We've got our flashlights. We've also got the horn sound. So as we go to lock the vehicle, do we want our horn to sound, yes or no? When we remote start, do we want that sound to go on as well? And then we've got our passive entry also. So the buttons that we've got on the outside, power liftgate alert, do we want that one to come on, yes or no? So a little bit of flexibility when it comes down to it. We've got our seating comfort, easy exit seats. What that means is that with our easy exit seats on, if we go to turn the car off, it's automatically going to bring those seats down so that we can easily get out of the vehicle. Our auto heated and ventilated steering, so seats and steering wheel. When we go to remote start the vehicle, do we want it to be on or do we want it to have start up regardless? So do we want that heated steering wheel to turn on when we remote start? Yes or no? And same thing with those heated and cooled seats. We've got our key off options. So key off delay or headlight delay as well. How long do we want that headlight delay to go on? So we've got a few different options there. We've got our suspension system, so our auto entry exit suspension, which is automatically going to lower or raise the vehicle to help us get in and out a little bit easier. We've got our display suspension methods, yes or no. Transport mode, which you don't need to worry about unless you're a dealer. And then our alignment mode as well. We've got some basic audio settings. So again, we've already seen these different settings when we look through the audio tab there. Phone Bluetooth, this setting is the one that we saw when we looked at the phone. Sirius XM setup. So if you're a heavy Sirius XM user, you can skip some channels out. You've got some basic settings, and then you can tune to start as well. And then we can reset in order to bring us back to our factory defaults as well. So a lot of flexibility and a lot of options when it comes down to it, but that's going to be that uConnect media screen in a nutshell. Such an incredible system, right? But if you ran into any issues, have any questions at all, drop down in the comments section below. More than willing to talk you through any problems that you might be having. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Think about sharing it with your social networks. And until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.